Welcome back. We are joined today by Patrick Macqueen, and he is an attorney here in Chandler, Arizona, helping us understand some estate planning basics for those of us who live in the state of Arizona. Uh, Patrick is licensed in some other jurisdictions as well, but primarily this information is for Arizona residents. And of course, if you have specific questions, reach out to Patrick or myself directly so we can give you specific advice. We've kind of talked a little bit about wills and trusts and some hierarchies of the basic estate planning. One of the things that I hear fairly often is, we've got grown adult children, you know, how do we protect these things if that grown adult child really shouldn't inherit everything outright at time of passing? How do we handle some of these things where we have an idea where we want our assets to go upon death, but depending on the age of the child or what their capabilities are, maybe we want to restrict some of that.
Oh, no doubt. I mean, you don't want a 20-year-old or a 22-year-old to get a big lump sum of money in many circumstances and blow it. I
Hmm.
mean, or they've got a dependency issue or whatever the issue may be, or that you have a concern about that. And so there are ways in which you can deal with that. I thought you were going the disinheritance route completely. Which you can do as well. And that's been in the news with certain celebrities recently. But
Right.
in any event, what you can do, what most people do is they'll have either some form of spendthrift provision, which means you're going to get a small amount here and there, so that you're not out there just blowing the entire amount. So it's called a spendthrift clause or spendthrift provision. Those are usually found in trust documents. Okay. We
Okay.
also have ways to delay inheritances, kind of similar to a spendthrift clause or spendthrift provisions. But there are things you can do in estate planning documents to avoid a large lump sum going to a kid. I call them kid, even though they're adults by then. Um, you can avoid that from happening and delay the inheritance. You can have you can have a corporate trustee sort of administer, here's your allowance for this year, and upon your 25th birthday you're going to get a larger lump sum. Upon your 35th birthday you're going to get a larger sum. And there are many ways. Trust, and you do these through a trust.
Okay.
um, there are many that's one of the benefits of a trust, is that it allows for incredible flexibility for those life situations in which you want to avoid. Hey, what I've seen some people do is they say, okay, once you get an undergraduate degree, then you get the lump sum. Or once you accomplish X, Y, and Z, then here's what's going to happen. Now, are those favored by the courts? Probably not, but most of these aren't going to be contested anyway. So, if what I would recommend is, for most people are going to be the age sort of restrictions or the age distributions, to avoid somebody getting a large lump sum. Now, sometimes we get into situations where somebody signs a trust and they go, my daughter, my son has a alcohol problem or some other issue that they don't want them to get the money because they may use it for a purpose that the
Mhm.
parents don't really want them to use it for. And
Right.
so that's kind of a spendthrift clause, spendthrift provision that you're going to want to put in there, so that it's not a situation where they're just wasting the money and using it improperly.
Interesting. So, and so that kind of goes to like when we talked earlier about sort of the good, better, best strategy of estate planning. So when we get to that higher tier of the trust, that the best, it sounds like, okay, well, one of the big benefits of that, and probably some of the reasons that it's more expensive, is that it really does have this ability, these intricacies, these bells and whistles that allow you to really customize and sort of do things when you've passed as if you were still alive, sort of.
Oh, precisely. And to me, if you've got kids, probably do need a trust. You
Okay.
definitely need a will. But particularly if you have any assets to pass to your kids, and you are concerned that they may misuse the money,
Hmm.
or have special needs as well. I mean, that's what we see in some of these trusts as well. Upon my passing, I know that, my daughter, my whatever, is going to need a certain amount of their own care. And so we set up spendthrift provisions in there so that people can't take those assets. They can only be used for certain purposes. So it
Cool.
really does offer a lot of bells and whistles, if you have those kinds of unique situations.
Okay. And the other thing on that kind of the maybe the other side of that coin is you know what sort of happens to protect our if we're talking about the family protection side, if we have not passed away but yet we're just incapacitated, like how do we handle that where I'm not dead but I'm also not in a position where I can really handle affairs. And we see that um you know certainly here, and we have those situations that we know of people and clients and friends and family where as somebody ages, maybe they get to a point where they're really not themselves, and they're still alive, but they're just sort of incapacitated from a whether it's a medically legal side of that world, or they're just not in their faculties.
Sure. And some of them can be temporary issues, some of
Mhm.
them can be more long term. And so if you do not plan for that, then again, we have state statutes that will do the planning for you.
How
So
lucky. So what you're saying is the state again is taking care of us, and it made a plan for us if we haven't decided to plan.
yeah, I don't know if I see it that as being so friendly, but you're right. I mean, they do have a plan for us. The state will, the state needs an easy sort of roadmap as, hey, look, this is what we believe happened. They need a guardian. They need some sort of guardianship proceeding. They need some sort of other legal proceeding. Well, let's try to avoid all that,
Yeah.
because that costs money, that creates more strain, etc. Let's just do a power of attorney. Let's just do some simple document like that would allow somebody to have automatic rights. Remember what we're talking about. We're trying to automate things here. Like with the trust, we automate who takes over what and who does what upon our passing. We don't have to go through probate. We don't have to do a lot of other stuff. Same goes for something as simple as a power of attorney. Now, there's usually healthcare power of attorneys. There's usually financial powers of attorneys. So if you want somebody to help you, or to make the decisions for you in a healthcare incapacity situation, then you need a power of attorney for healthcare purposes. Similarly, if you are out of the country, even are unable to manage your financial affairs for some reason, again, it doesn't even have to be a health issue, right? I can delegate authority to somebody while I'm, on sabbatical or wherever and when I go and find myself in the forest of Brazil, I can have somebody take over my personal financial assets so that they can pay my mortgage while I'm gone, so that they can pay the landscapers and whatever it may be. So
Okay.
powers of attorney are just that document that I think you're alluding to here. So we have a couple of different things. Again, we have a power of attorney for healthcare. We have a power of attorney for financial affairs, and upon your death, these go away. That person no longer has that authority. But while you're alive, those are effective. Okay. And so those are the documents that will help if you are ever incapacitated. And even if it's not a true incapacitation, you want to give somebody authority, great. That can be a very good idea.
And the healthcare one is that just somebody who can help make medical decisions, go to a doctor's appointment with you, and those kinds of things?
Exactly. Yeah, yeah, exactly. And then we also have these sort of advanced directives, they're called, or they're, living wills. There's sort of these other documents that kind of guide in end of life situations
Okay.
that
That's a different power of attorney, I
exactly.
assume.
Yeah, exactly. Well, exactly. It's more of a, it's not necessarily a power of attorney. It is helpful to have a power of attorney in those situations, but in a living will, you're basically saying, look, these are the things that I want you to do to try to help me live longer, or I'm not interested in that. I don't want to prolong this. And so that's what that document provides.
Okay. Yeah, and I always, yeah, we hear about that as the sort of the pull the plug.
I
For
didn't want to
sure.
say
Yeah. I'll say it for you.
it.
I hear it that way, and so and I think, like a lot of things, people lump things together that aren't clearly understood, or and language matters, right? So we don't necessarily um know all these things, but we hear things often enough, kind of like we discussed earlier on the probate, like we should avoid probate, and great, what's probate? Like why should we avoid it? And these kind of things with the healthcare, because it can be very complex to have someone assist you in the medical world for whatever that is. Forget it, the end of life stuff, that's even a larger responsibility, right?
Well, and remember what I said earlier, all of these documents work together.
Hmm.
And so one will supplement or complement the other where there's a gap. And so because we don't know what's going to happen, right? And
Right.
there's a lot of uncertainty. Well, these all together, they work together to create a little bit more certainty. And that's the goal, is we use the laws that exist to create some form of certainty as to what's going to happen to those assets, as to what so and so can do while I'm still here or not here. All of the documents sort of complement and supplement each other.
I love it. Well, great. Well, that's a good place for this segment to conclude, and we will be right back in just a moment. Stick around.